Your ancestors weren't fast. They weren't strong. What they had was 65,000 years and a refusal to stay where they started. That's how a species with no natural advantage ended up crossing deserts that kill in a day, oceans wide enough to lose the coastline behind them, and ice sheets that swallowed entire forests. Almost none of what got them there is what you'd guess. The first vehicle was the human body itself, and it's a stranger machine than it looks. Humans carry between 2 and 4 million sweat glands. A horse manages roughly half our cooling capacity through sweat alone. Over a short sprint, the horse wins without effort, but stretch the distance past 30 kilometers in real heat and the advantage flips. The horse starts overheating. The human just keeps moving. Wales still runs an annual event called Man vs. Horse, 22 miles of rough terrain, and on the hottest years, human runners have beaten every horse in the race. Trackers from the Sand people in the Kalahari still hunt this way today, chasing a kudu for 3 hours or more across 35 kilometers of open ground, until the animal collapses from heat it can't shed fast enough. Speed was never the advantage here. Outlasting everything faster was. That advantage runs out at the coastline. 65,000 years ago, humans reach Australia, and there's no version of the map where that happens by accident. Even at the lowest sea levels of the last ice age, Australia was never joined to Asia by land. Someone had to build something that floats, load it with enough people to start a new population, and aim it at open water with nothing visible on the other side. Genetic and archaeological evidence backs this timeline. Tens of thousands of years before farming, before writing, before most things we associate with the beginning of civilization. This is the first time a human invention carries people past what their own body could ever manage alone. Somewhere around 15,000 years ago, a second kind of vehicle shows up, and it isn't built from anything. Wolves start lingering near human camps for scraps, and the ones that tolerate people get fed. Over generations, they change. A dog can carry gear, pull a small load, and range ahead of a group to catch danger before a person would notice it. This upgrade isn't mechanical. It's a relationship with another species, and it stretches what a group can carry and how far they can travel long before anyone invents a wheel. What moves the heaviest loads for most of this history is 2 poles lashed together, dragged behind a person or a dog, carrying whatever a family can't afford to leave behind. On snow it glides instead of dragging. No axle, no wheel, just friction and the will to keep pulling. This is how an elder too weak to walk stays with the group. How a child too small for the distance gets carried through it. How meat gets back to camp before it spoils. The hardest transport problem in human history isn't speed, it's who gets left behind. And this solves it tens of thousands of years before the wheel exists. The wheel itself doesn't arrive until around 3,500 BCE, under 6,000 years ago. A sliver of time next to everything that came before it. It isn't invented for transport either. The earliest wheels turn up on pottery, spinning discs that shape clay faster than hands alone. It takes centuries before anyone thinks to put that same disc under a cart. Once it happens, a cart still needs something to pull it. So humans start testing every strong or fast animal within reach. Almost every one of them refuses. In 1894, a British aristocrat named Walter Rothschild drove a carriage pulled by 6 zebras straight to Buckingham Palace, just to prove the Victorians wrong about whether zebras could be tamed. He'd trained them himself. He also kept a pet giant tortoise he liked to ride around his estate. The carriage worked. Everything after it didn't. Zebras bite and hold on instead of letting go. And unlike horses, they don't organize around a single dominant leader a human can step into the place of. You can tame one zebra. The species itself never cooperates. Even the French naturalist Buffon was convinced, back in the 1760s, that zebras would eventually replace the horse. They never came close. Cheetahs are the fastest land animal alive, which is precisely why they were never useful for travel. Their speed is one explosive sprint, followed by total collapse, with no stamina underneath it to build anything on, and no herd instinct steering them toward a human handler. African buffalo can pull weight no person could move alone, but they're aggressive enough that even now they're considered among the most dangerous animals on the continent, wild or tamed. Strength without a hierarchy to plug into isn't domestication, it's just danger with muscle. Giraffes mature too slowly and startle too easily to safely mount or control. Tigers hunt alone and see a human as prey, not as something to follow. Every one of these failures points at the same truth. Taming an animal was never a negotiation over strength or speed. Fall in line behind a leader, breed fast enough for humans to shape you generation by generation, and don't treat the person standing in front of you as a threat or a meal. That was the deal on offer. and almost every animal humans approached with it walked away. One didn't. Around 5,500 years ago, on the grasslands of Central Asia, humans domesticate the horse. Not because it was the strongest animal available, and not because it was the fastest. Zebras were tougher. Cheetahs were faster. The horse wasn't the best animal. It was just the only one that agreed to the deal. It already lived in herds with a single leader, so a human could simply take that position. It bred fast enough in captivity to be reshaped across generations. And it held on to real stamina at real speed, a combination nothing before it on this list had come close to offering. For the first time, a person could travel faster than their own legs would ever carry them, and it took thousands of years of animals saying no to make that finally happen. None of this was really about vehicles. It was about what your ancestors were willing to do to keep moving, outlasting animals built for speed until heat took them down first, building a raft and pointing it at land they'd never seen, failing for thousands of years with zebras and cheetahs and buffalo until one animal finally said yes. You didn't inherit a body built for travel. You inherited the people who kept going without one.